the world watched in horror as the news spread like wildfire across continents. The year was 1939, a year that would be etched into the annals of history forever. Adolf Hitler, driven by a lust for power and fueled by hate, unleashed his Nazi war machine upon Poland, igniting a conflict that would engulf the globe. This act of aggression shattered the fragile peace that remained after the First World War, leaving cities in ruins and lives in tatters. Great Britain and France, bound by treaties and a sense of responsibility, declared war on Germany, marking the beginning of a long and arduous struggle. The world was once again plunged into a global conflict, a conflict that would become known as World War II, a war that would touch every corner of the earth. From the bustling cities of Europe to the remote islands of the Pacific, the battle lines were drawn, and the stage was set for a confrontation of unprecedented scale. On one side stood the Axis powers, led by the ruthlessness of Nazi Germany, the imperial ambitions of Japan, and the opportunistic brutality of fascist Italy, each driven by their own dark visions of dominance. On the other side stood the Allied forces, a coalition bound by a common enemy and a shared desire for freedom, united in their resolve to stand against tyranny. Led by the industrial might of the United States, the unwavering resolve of Great Britain, and the vast manpower of the Soviet Union, the Allies prepared to confront the darkness that threatened to engulf the world, each nation contributing its strengths to the collective effort. This war would be unlike any other, a clash of ideologies, a struggle for the very soul of humanity, where the stakes were nothing less than the future of civilization itself. Over the next 6 years, the world would bear witness to unimaginable horrors, acts of unspeakable cruelty, and sacrifices of unparalleled heroism, as nations and individuals alike were tested to their limits. From the frozen Eastern Front to the scorching deserts of North Africa, from the skies above Britain to the depths of the Pacific Ocean, millions would fight and die in a conflict that would forever shape the course of human history, leaving an indelible mark on the collective memory of mankind. The battles of World War II were more than just military engagements. They were crucibles of courage, testaments to the human spirit, and grim reminders of the cost of freedom, each one a story of its own. Each battle, from the sprawling Eastern Front to the island-hopping campaign in the Pacific, carried with it a unique story of sacrifice, strategy, and ultimately survival, as soldiers and civilians alike navigated the chaos of war. These battles would not only determine the fate of nations, but also the future of the world, shaping the geopolitical landscape for generations to come, and reminding us of the enduring power of resilience and hope. In the heart of the Eastern Front, a battle of unimaginable brutality raged, a clash that would determine the fate of nations and the course of history. Stalingrad, a strategically vital city on the banks of the Volga River, became a symbol of Soviet resistance against the Nazi onslaught. Its capture was crucial for the Germans, as it would cut off Soviet transport routes and provide a gateway to the oil-rich Caucasus. The German Sixth Army, under the command of General Friedrich Paulus, was tasked with capturing the city that bore the name of the Soviet leader, Joseph Stalin. The mission was clear: take Stalingrad at all costs and break the Soviet spirit. The stage was set for one of the most pivotal battles in human history, a confrontation that would see unprecedented levels of destruction and human suffering. The battle began in the summer of 1942, with the German Luftwaffe unleashing a relentless aerial bombardment on Stalingrad, reducing much of the city to rubble. The once thriving metropolis was transformed into a landscape of devastation and despair. The Red Army, under the leadership of Generals Georgy Zhukov and Vasily Chuikov, fought with unwavering tenacity, defending every inch of the devastated city. Their resolve was unbreakable, their determination fueled by the knowledge that the fate of their nation hung in the balance. The fighting was brutal, hand-to-hand combat amidst the ruins of buildings, a desperate struggle for survival. Soldiers on both sides faced unimaginable horrors, with every street and building becoming a battleground. As the battle raged, The bitter Russian winter set in, transforming the battlefield into a frozen hellscape. The cold was merciless, adding another layer of suffering to an already dire situation. The German troops, ill-prepared for the harsh conditions, suffered terribly from the cold, disease, and lack of supplies. Their morale plummeted as they faced the relentless Soviet resistance and the unforgiving winter. The Soviets, accustomed to the unforgiving Russian winters, launched a counteroffensive, encircling the German Sixth Army within the city. The tables had turned, and the hunters had become the hunted. Trapped and facing annihilation, General Paulus pleaded with Hitler for permission to break out. The situation was dire, and the German forces were on the brink of collapse. Hitler, blinded by his own hubris, refused, condemning his own army to destruction. His stubbornness and refusal to accept the reality of the situation sealed the fate of the German Sixth Army. In February 1943, the remnants of the German Sixth Army surrendered, marking a turning point in the war. The once mighty force was now a shadow of its former self, broken and defeated. The Battle of Stalingrad, a victory forged in blood and sacrifice, shattered the myth of German invincibility and shifted the momentum of the war decisively in favor of the Allies. It was a testament to the resilience and determination of the Soviet people, a symbol of hope and defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. In the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, a clash of titans unfolded, a confrontation that would alter the course of history. The Battle of Midway, a pivotal naval battle, would prove to be a turning point in the Pacific War, shifting the balance of power in favor of the Allies. After the devastating attack on Pearl Harbor, the Japanese Empire, led by Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, sought to crush the American Pacific Fleet and solidify their control over the strategically vital Midway Atoll. Their plan was to lure the American carriers into a trap and destroy them. The battle commenced in early June 1942, with both sides aware that the outcome could determine the fate of the Pacific. Unbeknownst to the Japanese, American codebreakers had deciphered their plans, giving the United States Navy a crucial advantage. This intelligence allowed the U.S. to set up an ambush of their own. Admiral Chester Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Fleet, deployed his carriers, led by the legendary Yorktown, to intercept the Japanese fleet. The stage was set for a monumental clash. The battle raged for days, a deadly dance of aircraft carriers launching wave after wave of dive bombers and torpedo planes. Each side suffered heavy losses, but the Americans were determined to hold their ground. The turning point came when American dive bombers, in a stroke of luck and precision, caught the Japanese carriers with their decks full of fueled and armed aircraft. This moment of vulnerability was exploited with devastating effect. Within minutes, 3 Japanese carriers, the Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu, were engulfed in flames, crippled beyond repair. The loss of these carriers was a severe blow to the Japanese Navy. The Battle of Midway was a decisive victory for the United States Navy, effectively crippling the Japanese carrier force and halting their advance across the Pacific. This victory boosted American morale and marked the beginning of a strategic offensive. The battle marked a turning point in the Pacific War, shifting the strategic initiative from Japan to the United States. From this point on, the U.S. would take the offensive, pushing back against Japanese forces. It was a testament to the bravery of the American sailors and aviators, who fought with skill and determination against a formidable enemy. Their courage and sacrifice ensured that the tide of war would turn in favor of the Allies, paving the way for eventual victory in the Pacific. The fate of Europe hung in the balance. On June 6, 1944, the largest amphibious invasion in history commenced. Operation Overlord, better known as D-Day, marked the beginning of the Allied liberation of Western Europe from Nazi tyranny. Under the overall command of General Dwight D. Eisenhower, hundreds of thousands of Allied troops prepared to storm the beaches of Normandy, France. The invasion began under a shroud of secrecy, with airborne troops landing behind enemy lines to secure key objectives. As dawn broke, the Allied Armada, a vast flotilla of warships and landing craft, appeared on the horizon. The naval bombardment commenced, pounding German defenses along the 5 designated landing beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. The landings were met with fierce resistance from the German defenders, who were entrenched in bunkers and fortified positions along the coastline. The fighting was particularly intense on Omaha Beach, where American troops faced heavy casualties. Despite the losses, the Allies pressed on, their courage and determination fueled by a belief in the righteousness of their cause. By nightfall, the Allies had established a foothold on the beaches of Normandy. The invasion, a testament to the logistical brilliance and unwavering resolve of the Allied forces, marked a turning point in the war in Europe. It paved the way for the eventual liberation of France and the final defeat of Nazi Germany.